Paltrocast.
Well, thank you for taking the time. Aside from doing media where you answer the same questions over and over and over again, good day for you so far?
Yeah, no complaints yet today, but then again, it's Los Angeles and it's still early in the morning, so I have still time.
So when did you leave Strong Island?
Strong Island, what's that?
Long Island?
Oh, Long Island. Is that the nickname for it? I've never heard of that before. That's
Really?
just a testament to how long I've been gone, which is I left in summer of '91. I was 25.
Wow. Okay, so when you left, there was still Sundance.
Yep.
There was my father's place was long closed, but did you grow up playing those kinds of clubs?
Played Sundance and my father's place. Yep. Saw other bands. I saw the Dixie Dregs in my father's place. Saw the Police in my father's place, I think. Yeah. Long time ago. Are you from? Is that where you're calling from?
I'm dialing in from Long Beach, Long Island, New York. Yes,
No,
sir.
you're kidding. Doro lives in Long Beach, I believe.
I believe she left after Sandy.
Oh, did she?
But
Okay, I don't know.
Joan Jett is still here. Some of Taking Back Sunday is here, but we'll come back to all that. Let's talk about Heaven Comes Down first.
Sure.
When did you actually finish the record?
I don't remember exactly the time, but I would say it was like a year ago, maybe more. I'd have to go and look. It's been a while. I want to say, when I say finish the record, I mean like the actual recording, mixing, mastering done. Because I mean packaging and all that stuff, that's something else that takes time. But I think it was like a year, man. Year ago.
So was there some overlap between that and the archival Dokken release that you helped re-record and package together?
I actually played some solos on that. No one really even knows that. I don't know how you did.
I interviewed the man who calls himself Double D. And
he told you? Yeah. I forgot all about that. Oh God, man, memory is escaping me with how things transpired. I don't know if I want to say that album came out before we finished this one. God, it's like with COVID, things just became such a blur, you know? Don't remember. Sorry. I want to say that one came out before we had even finished this one. But, don't know.
The key is Dokken has not slowed down in recent years. And I believe you're officially the third longest tenured member of Dokken.
Am I? Who's the, obviously Don's the first.
I believe Mick has 4 years on you.
Yeah, Mick would have beaten me. Yeah. I love Mick. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you started with Dokken, I remember reading the lawyer is also the lead guitarist is also the lawyer. Do you still do the legal duties for Dokken?
Yeah, I do some of it with Don. Yeah, I help him as much as I can help him. The business, the music business, man, it's very, very complicated. Even for attorneys, it's so, it's crazy because most musicians, we just want to play music and write music, but then when it comes to publishing and all of that, I mean, who could understand that? I have discussions with lawyers. They don't understand how rights work for performance rights and, neighboring rights. It's very hard, especially in today's. It got so much more difficult with all these other revenue sources. So yeah, I help them as much as I can help them.
So my theory on Dokken is that the person who knows the most about Dokken is you. And the reason why is because you have the 20 plus years besides what you did in the late 90s, but you've also seen all the paperwork. Then you've also negotiated with all the outside parties to know how they see things. So Jon Levin is the unofficial / official Dokken historian. Am I wrong?
Could be, that's an interesting way of looking at it. But yeah, I mean, obviously in the early days, that Don has all the catalog in his head about what went on with all of that. But you're right, though, in terms of from that angle, sure, because no one else really but me would have that information,
Right.
Yeah.
Hot commodity right there. So Heaven Comes Down. Are you playing much of the record live when you're doing gigs?
We're going to start with Fugitive and Gypsy. I think the plan is, we're going to start with those. I think Fugitive, hopefully the next gig. We're going to rehearse it and get going. We had an understanding with the label that we weren't supposed to play any of these things live until I think they said release or video release. So we had to wait, so now we can.
It's cool to see that there's a mix of vintage and new going on. By that, I mean, you have Kevin Shirley mixing the record, but you make the music video at Meow Wolf, which means that there's a lot of fingers on the pulse of what's going on. Yet at the same time, Don does have a lot of long-term relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, let me, for the Meow Wolf thing was really interesting. First of all, a lot of people don't even know what Meow Wolf was. I don't know what Meow Wolf was. Not when Don called me, he said, "Yeah, we're gonna use Meow Wolf." I thought Meow Wolf meant like some new form of digital enhancement. I had no idea it's a place. I didn't know what that was. But first of all, that place is just. I don't know if you've ever been there, but the place is super cool. We did it in. Yeah,
To
there's one in
clarify,
Vegas.
I've been to the Vegas one. So
Okay.
about that in Area 51, I don't think you can really describe it until you've been there,
Yeah. We did ours in New Mexico. Don lives in New Mexico, so we did it there, and the only way to describe it is like a fun house of 50 interconnected rooms or something. Like, for example, that first scene of the video where Don is on the porch and I'm walking by him. If you walk through that front door of that house there, so there's like it almost looks like a studio set. There's a house, right? Then you walk through you open the refrigerator, you walk through the refrigerator, you're in another whole environment, and it goes on and on and on like that for like room after room after room, So yeah, it was really, really cool. The Kevin Shirley thing, Don found Kevin, and it was great to work with him. He works in Australia, Kevin. So that with the time zones, it was first of all, the time zone difference was one thing, but Kevin works old school, like he has an actual physical console, Whereas today a lot of people use, I don't want to bore you with technical stuff, but a lot of people do mix what's called like in the box with Pro Tools on a computer.
Well, that's why you had to bake those tapes for the Dokken re-release thing.
Right.
A lot
right, exactly. Yeah, you know more than me. Literally. So yeah, so with the Kevin Shirley thing, Don, when you mix on a console, even though the console has recall, all of this, the racks of outboard gear that he has, it's not that easy to recall a mix. On Pro Tools, like, oh, you know what, man, we listened to it after 3 weeks later, we decided that the bass drum's too low. Can you just make the bass drum a little bit louder? No, I mean, yeah, I got with Kevin, we'd have to commit really for the most part. I mean, we could do some limited redos later, but it wasn't as easy. So Don would call me and be like, "Hey man, you got to go listen to these now because he's got it on the board. We got to pick, and he's got to commit this." So it was more like that, which was sort of really cool because I like old school too, and I like the fact that he worked on an actual console, and I feel like the record has a certain overall warm quality to it.
Yeah,
sonically. Sorry. So I don't know if I lost
that's a very good point, that it does have some old school Dokken like flavor to it. There's a song that I heard and went, okay, that's Alone Again Part 2, and I mean that in a good way, but it does sound like a modern record comparatively.
That's cool. Which I'm just curious, which one which was that one for you?
I am bad with titles. I don't remember.
That's okay.
That was I Remember or Lost in You. It's one of the things that's towards the end of the record.
Okay, maybe one of the ballads. Maybe it was Never Give Up or I Remember. Okay, cool. Yeah.
So putting that all together here, you got the new record. You're going to start playing that material live. The way Dokken works, are you guys already thinking about the next record, or is this such a long slog that you're like, we're good?
It's such a long, arduous process to make one of these things. You know what I mean? Don said something to me once that always resonated with me. No good record gets finished; it gets abandoned. Because that's how it is. I mean, at some point you got to be like, okay, it's done. So it's just like a really, really long process. But if you look at our track history, we've been saying after every record we're never doing another one. So is it possible there could be another one? Yeah, it's possible. Right now, it's hard to wrap my head around it just because we're just getting this one out after so long,
Right.
So I'm a step-by-step kind of person. So like for me, it's like, let's get this one, and then maybe one day we can readdress it. Because what it becomes in my mind anyway. I don't know. I can't speak for anyone else, but it becomes like a little level of fear. Like we got something really good here. We can go out with that. What if we do another one and it falls short of that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, I can get caught up in that a little bit. But if it turns out this is the last one, I say, hey man, what a way to go out, right?
I like that you accidentally lawyered in what you just said, where you said, I can't speak for anyone else.
Well,
You gave that disclaimer.
you know, I am at work today, so getting a cross here of both hats on at one time.
So, point of curiosity, now you mentioned Doro earlier, and you were in Warlock, then you went into the lawyering, then Dokken happened in the 90s. When did the law school portion of your life start?
I went to law school in '93. What happened was I moved to Los Angeles '91. I was in another band. After Warlock, I had a couple other projects. I had a deal in Atlantic Records, didn't work out. Oh. Moved out to Los Angeles with another band. And then Smells Like Teen Spirit hit. Yeah. All of a sudden, 80s rock is over, and it became not cool to play guitar solos anymore. Right. So, you know, all I ever wanted to do was be like, you know, play songs in the era of, you know, Eddie Van Halen songs, Randy Rhoads, George Lynch, whatever, you know, those. That's what I wanted to do. And now that was gone, I didn't have any money. You know, I was living in a 2-bedroom apartment with 3 people. Our singer was living on the couch. And, you know, for me to just come up with like the little bit of money I needed to live, like my grandmother was sending me help at the time as a kid, you know. Everyone thought that when I moved out of New York, yeah, he'll be back in 3 months. He's going to run out of money, you know. And like that was like my biggest fear of allowing that to happen, you know. So you know, I was selling computer printer ribbons in like a boiler room, you know, like these annoying phone soliciting calls you get. Yeah, I was doing that.
I got to interrupt you. I mean, everybody I know who lost their record deal at a certain point in time in the 90s in LA became a telemarketer.
Yeah, I was a telemarketer. It was horrible. I was making so little money. I had to get up at 4:30 in the morning because we had a call to the East Coast, you know. I had to get there, but we would start calling at like 6 o'clock or something like that, or 5:30, whatever it was in our time. And you know, I just didn't. And there were other musicians in the boiler room with me who I recognized. Yeah, and I'm thinking in my head, you know what? I don't want to end up like that guy. And I got scared, and I said to my dad, I'm like, my dad's like, well, okay, well, you have 2 choices. You can either go to law school or you can work in the record store. So that was the gamut of choices I was presented with. You got law school, record store. That was the range of things that I was, at least in my father's mind, right? So, you know, I figured I'll go to law school. Maybe I'll do like entertainment law, you know? So I went to law school. I didn't really play any guitar for years, and started a record company and started doing it. I started my own practice, 96, started a record company, and started doing some entertainment law work. And then all of a sudden one day I got a call from Jeff Pilson, and that changed everything. Music family again, somehow.
Now, another point of interest about Jon Levin from this guy is there's a lot of Levins that have made it in the music business. There's 2 artists that are Peter Levins, both named Peter Levin. There's Tony Levin, the genius bass player, etc. Yeah. Are you related to any of the Levins? Harvey Levin, for example.
Well,
that's another lawyer with jobs.
You know what? Harvey Levin from TMZ, not Harvey Levin. Okay. You know, I never did a DNA test with any of them, but you know, who knows? Anything's possible, I guess. I don't know any of them personally. Then there's also the Jon Levin, spelled differently, from Europe.
Right.
Yeah. So no, I don't know any of those other Levins, but I guess it's maybe a common name, I guess.
Got it. Well, 2 more questions, and then I let you roam free. And they're potentially stupid questions. I'm giving that.
Okay.
The first one is, being a guy who can play a lot of notes, who's inspired by Van Halen, was there ever an audition for either the Atomic Punks or David Lee Roth's solo band?
For me?
Yeah.
I never auditioned for either of those 2 bands, man. No.
It seems like everyone else either auditioned for Atomic Punks or Roth at some point.
Yeah, no, I never auditioned for either of those 2. I didn't really have many. I did. Throughout my career, I've received other phone calls to join other bands, but I never auditioned for any of those other ones. There was a minute well, I don't know if I want to go there, but there was some other bands that I was presented to back in the late 80s, which in retrospect, I don't want to say what it was, but I should have probably done it. There was 2, but you know, had I done those, who knows what life what would have happened. You know, nobody knows it. You have to be, it went how it went. You know,
Had you done that, you'd be playing probably the same venues that you're playing now, and not have a law degree.
You never exactly like you never know what it would have been, and you know, I remember when I got the first of those calls, I had the band that I was working with at the time. I just flown them in from LA, and I all of a sudden get a call from a major. You know, if I told you who it is, be like, what? And they're like, we lost our guitar player on headlining arenas. We need you next week. You're in. And I was like, I'm looking at the bass player, just I'm like, you know, it's like that. Yeah, it is what it is. So who knows?
And the last question, is there anything that you miss about not living on Long Island?
You know, I was back there recently, just a month ago. I visited with I have two sisters that live there, one of whom lives in Huntington.
Oh, yeah.
The downtown area there near Cold Spring Harbor, whatever. And yeah, really nice there, you know. I saw it from a different perspective. I've been gone for so long, you know, but I didn't like the weather, you know. Yes. That was the first thing. I didn't like that. And I just knew, like, from the first time I came to LA as a kid, my parents brought me here when I was like, it was 1972. I was, you know, 6 years old. I just knew right away, like, why it's so nice there. Why do we live in New York? Like, I couldn't understand, you know. I would, for my whole life, I would say to my parents, why are we here? You know, I didn't understand. Yeah, well, my dad is a dentist and he's got to work here, you know. But I'm like, let's go. We should go there. It's better there. They don't have snow, right? So eventually, you know, I just knew I had to sort of make my way out here if I wanted to do anything in music. There was just so little on Long Island, you know, other than like the guys in Twisted, who I'm friendly with. By the way, I saw Mark and JJ just recently. And they're sort of, you know, those two guys are instrumental too in helping me get to where I ended up. But I don't know if you want that story, but, you know, Mark, I said to Mark when I saw him at this, just recently, I saw him at a wedding, and I was like, man, you know, Mark, I really got to thank you, because I don't know if you remember, he came to my house for dinner. I was, you know, 19 years old or something. And he came to my house for dinner, and he said to my mother, yeah, you know, your son's really talented. He's going to be playing in arenas one day. And I was like, what? You know, I'm a little kid playing in, I couldn't. And I said to him, and, you know, that gave me like inspiration when you told me that. Like, I was just this little kid, you know, that you thought you saw some vision that you thought I was good enough to do that at some point, you know, and I thanked him, you know.
That was before he was Officer Glickman.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, Officer Glickman. I was so young, I didn't know anything. I went to Mark's house, you know, and there was a gold record on the wall, and it said presented to Ethel Glickman, right? And I didn't know. I was just a young kid. I got home, called my friends up, who's like, you know, we're all into Twisted Sister. And I said, Jeff, I was at Mark Mendoza's house today. His real name is Ethel Glickman. You know, I thought that was his mom, but I didn't know. Right? I didn't know. I thought that was him. You know.
So, yeah, anyway. when you as a Long Island kid, you learn that Lee Rocker from the Stray Cats is Lee Drucker, and you learn everyone's real names.
Yeah, you know, I of course I got everyone's real name, you know. So, but you know, JJ French too. You know, he was also, you know, had me up at his place, and I was just a kid, and told me stories, showed me guitars, and, you know, worked with my band that I was in, came to rehearsals and everything. You know, in fact, Mark Mendoza introduced me to a really close dear friend of mine, Johnny Gale. You know, real name Neil Posner, one of the best guitar players ever. And Neil was is an incredible musician, but just he was just such a great blues player. And, you know, at the time I had so much energy. I was very young and I played so fast, you know, and Neil would go to me, John, just play one note. Play one note.
He tried to get the shredding.
That was another influence. He got me into these vintage instruments, like vintage Les Pauls and Stratocasters, and I bought a bunch of them. Every dime I made, like, I just bought vintage guitars from him when I was a kid. I still have them, you know.
But before I thank you and let you go, you know, one of my friends, he took his major label advance and bought vintage guitars, and everyone was saying, "Oh, you're nuts!" And turns out that was the best investment. That was better than real estate. That was better.
It could be.
Cars.
Yeah.
So Hey, Jon Levin did it right there, but
Yeah, I made a couple of good moves. Trust me, I made a lot of bad ones too, but those were good.
you're still here. Third longest tenured member of Dokken. But Jon, thank you for the many years of great art, and really looking forward to what's to come, and hope there's a New York gig in the near future.
Yeah, there will be. Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
Paltrocast.